I grew up in a musical family. My sister has been singing since she was very, very little. My mother played the piano and sings, and my stepfather, growing up, was the music director of our church. I had a religious upbringing. It was an influence in the sense that I listened to a lot of Christian music. I grew up with those values. I kind of laid down a foundation through my parents and my family. Kept the good ones, got rid of the ones I didn't like. We used to have band practice in our house, and so I was kind of surrounded by music and musical people for a long time, and just kind of sat by really and didn't do more than bang on things with my hands and make rhythms until probably high school when I started playing guitar. And then the next couple of years I started writing music on guitar, coming up with ideas, riffs and things, and then kind of discovered music software and found that I could get my music down really quickly if I didn't focus so much on recording live instruments. By focusing more on just software and doing, kind of stumbling into electronic sounds, I was able to create lots of tracks really quickly and kind of keep abreast of the ideas as they were coming to me. Like I said, I had been doing primarily guitar type music, and so I was trying to record music as if I was like a full rock band and get that level of quality. And as someone who'd never done that before, I had no idea what I was doing. It was really hard. So I kind of stumbled into music software, and I was using software to record this stuff, and then I found synthesizers and other stuff that it seemed a little easier to wrap my head around and to get musical ideas down. Some level of it was actually pragmatic to get into that because I never had a fancy recording situation. I've never been a particularly great engineer, someone who knows about gear and mics and how to get the most pristine, clean recording. That's never really been my thing. I've been more interested in how can I use this stuff to create interesting textures, interesting sounds, and to kind of think of it as painting almost. And so clarity, I try to explore clarity in a more kind of a symbolic sense than a literal sense. I was really enthralled with the aesthetic of it, the sounds that you could get out of it, the nuance of it, because I think from the outside looking in, it can seem kind of primitive and simple. And it is simple, but there's a lot you can do. And there's a lot that you have to do to create good chip music. Just as far as massaging the sounds, because you only have you're limited to certain kinds of sounds, and if you're adhering to if you're using hardware or something, you might only have 3 or 4 channels that you can have playing at the same time. So if you want to write big arrangements with lots of chords and harmony, you have to come up with techniques to work around that. So it really it really forced me to focus on composition and counterpoint and how musical lines kind of interact with each other. Probably the last 5 or 6 years I've been moving away from it, but it's such a huge part of my foundation as a musician that there'll always be an element of it in my music, I think. And so I've had to come to terms with that. I think I've always been driven by wanting to explore new avenues for myself. And in the beginning, it was maybe more subtle differences between projects. Oh, this project uses this kind of retro, this kind of 8-bit sound chip. This project uses a different one, and they have different sounds. But in the last couple of years, it's been more kind of varied as far as I want to do a feature film, and then I got to do a horror film, which is something I had never done anything like that before. Or working with live musicians. I'm doing a feature right now where I'm writing music for live musicians. I did a piece with a friend. We listened to a lot of medieval vocal music and used a lot of that as inspiration. And getting into music software and creating music for games where the music isn't pre-recorded pieces of music. It's all improvised as you play the game. So just always trying to kind of diversify and explore like new ways of kind of interfacing with music. And when I kind of stumbled into doing music for games, I started to see and realize that, you know, games were done differently, and that you had more resources for doing all kinds of interesting things with sound and music in games. Music doesn't have to be straightforward; it can be non-linear. And so when I was first wrapping my head around that, I was like, "Wow, the possibilities are endless. You could do anything. This is crazy." And so, you know, I got really excited about that. You know, like, what does that feel like? You know, what does it feel like to kind of apply kind of these tenets of interactivity in games? You know, the things that motivate, you know, game mechanics, player control, environments, branching, storylines, all this kind of stuff. What if you take those sorts of ideas and apply them to music? There's so much to it. It's storytelling. It's you know, it captures. It's communication. It's emotion. It's math. It's a really lovely art form. We wanted to put ourselves in the game in some capacity. So all the core members have characters that are hanging out in the central town of Hyperlight Drifter. Most of them are shopkeepers, or my friend Casey is like, he's always taking notes. So and he wears like a kind of like a beret type hat. So they have him like on a tree stump, and he always does this thing with like a pencil or whatever. He puts it in his mouth and he's like writing. And he's like this. He's always like, he's got his. I am also in the game as a skull-headed character, and it has my monogram on the skull, which is a D and a P. The D is also a quarter note, and the P is a quarter note. And there's also, so it's kind of like this, and then there's a P, and then there's this part, which is kind of like the, it's meant to represent like the teeth of a skull. So it's kind of like, it's me, my head is my logo, I'm playing a guitar, and as you walk through the central town, there's underscore. As you approach my avatar, you hear my avatar, he's improvising, he's noodling over the underscore. I don't even think of Disasterpeace as a person. I think of it as a separate entity. But, you know, people don't, is that a band? Is that a, you know, what is that? And I like that. I also like the idea of, I don't know, kind of this idea of duality, which was really kind of big in my music, especially early on. I just love to make fake identities, and I was obsessed with making logos. That was my favorite thing to do at that time, and I kind of saw myself joining a band or something. I really wanted to be in a band, and so that was a name that I came up with for like a prospective band that never really happened. And I kind of just decided to use it for myself. Originally it was Disasterpeace, P-I-E-C-E. And then I think I learned that there was a Slipknot song that had that name, and I decided to change it to Peace, like Disasterpeace. I feel like the relationship to the audience is automatic, because no matter what I do, there's going to be a dialogue, and I don't put too much clout into what people think, whether it's praise or criticism. People are always like, "Hey, I love this new horror wave, synth wave, retro wave." I'm like, okay, whatever floats your boat. I mean, I don't know what any of those things mean. I just write music. Like I don't think about any of that stuff. So, as more people become aware with my work, I run into this sort of interaction more frequently, where someone knows me for a very specific thing, and so I kind of get put in a certain box. And so part of that journey too has been trying to detach myself more from my work, and kind of see it as like when I'm with it, when I'm working on it, it's mine, but once it's done, it doesn't belong to me anymore. And a part of it is just kind of like, I don't know, just like maybe like a Zen practice to help me stay sane. The things that I'm most well known for are darker and gloomy, but I've done plenty of not dark and gloomy music. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know how much it affects my mood, honestly. I think what affects my mood has more to do with my relationship to the work, to the people I'm working with, to the deadlines, to the quality, the level of success I'm having, how I feel about what I'm doing. Like, am I doing a good job? Is this not meeting my expectations? Those are the things that really kind of tug at my emotions. I think the actual like vibe of the music doesn't affect me as much. I draw inspiration from philosophers, from visual artists, from filmmakers, from athletes, from writers, from politicians sometimes, from just all, entrepreneurs, all kinds of people. I mean, I'm drawn to visual art too. Visual art is very different. And I love the way that visuals and audio can interact in so many different ways. I mean, it's really fascinating, and that's been a huge part of what I do for a while now. When I'm like writing music for a game or a film or a cartoon or whatever, I mean, I'm drawing a conclusion in my head about, kind of the essence of the thing, the vibe, and that's going to inform me to make a certain series of choices about the music. I don't feel like I'm prolific because I spend a lot of time not working. I think, but when it really matters, I work. So I think I would regret not putting things out more. I know a lot of creative people who are very hesitant to release stuff, and I think it has a lot to do with fear of rejection or criticism. But for me, in the very beginning, I started posting stuff, and I got a thrill out of seeing what people thought of it, positive and negative. I felt like I was at times on this wheel, like a hamster wheel, and I could only make real progress if I got off and took the time to like reassess what I'm doing, learn new things, develop new ideas. I didn't feel like I could always just do it on the fly, just be like, oh, I'm just gonna like manifest some cool new thing. I didn't feel like that really worked for me, and so I mean, I would say for me, there's kind of the studying. There's like the studying pillar of what I do, and then there's like the creating, and then there's for me there's also kind of like a rest pillar, a rest period that's really important to me, which is just like it's getting away from it, and it's kind of like a form of healing, because sometimes writing music is kind of emotional, and it's challenging. I mean, I get offers to work on stuff pretty much every day, and like not just like random person, but like big companies and stuff. I just went through this process of if I felt like if I kept just working and working and working and not really stopping, I would burn myself out. And so I was like, I need to be really sensitive to my well-being and my health, both physically and emotionally. And so it's kind of become this mindset for me where I refuse to overwork myself. There are times when I feel maybe a little overworked, or you have to be on set for 14 hours or whatever. But for the most part, it just means for me that I'm trying to focus on less and do those things better. I've always leaned towards the aesthetics of music to the lyrics, always. But in the last couple of years, I've gotten more into lyrics. But if music with great lyrics, if I don't like the musicality, I won't listen to it. Like, it's too important to me. I would if I just cared about the lyrics, I'd read. If I was writing music with like lyrics, I mean, then that's obviously could be a little bit more intimate, and like kind of this period where I was writing a lot of songs. It was right towards the end of a relationship and a breakup, so I wrote a lot of like love songs basically. And now when I go back and play some of those songs, it's kind of hard. It's weird because I don't feel, it's so long ago now that I don't really feel that that emotional connection to the song anymore. I'm like, this is kind of a sappy song. Having a hard time like embodying this, you know. And that's part of what I enjoy about being a producer, is that I don't have to try to re-embody music I wrote, you know, 5 years ago, and it's just done. I did that a while ago, and it's a snapshot.
This is our daily anthem. Calculated glitches. We dig deep in our britches, but we know nothing's there.
I'm always in transition, and I'm always looking for new sounds. I mean, if I'm in the middle of a project, then maybe I've established something and I'm sticking with that. But, you know, from project to project, I'm always trying to do something different. Right now, I'm working on a feature with the director of It Follows called Under the Silver Lake, and we finished filming and we're putting it together right now. I'll probably start scoring it next week, later this week. That'll take me probably through April or so, if all things go well. And then I'm joining Heart Machine, which is the group that made Hyperlight Drifter.